let's analyze what is meant by words of Allah. Let's approach this topic holistically. Let's see what scholars of the religion have said about these verses. You can even see in this translation they have decisions in parentheses. What is words referring to here? It's referring to the help of Allah. So when it says none can change the words of Allah, this means the words that Allah has decreed regarding the victory of the believers in this life and the hereafter. Again, clearly, what is meant by words of Allah in this context? It's talking about the glad tidings that He has decreed, that He has promised for the believers. So Allah tells us none can change His words, but right before that He also says, the word of your Lord has been fulfilled in truth and in justice. So none can change His words, meaning none can override His ruling. None can override His legislation. None has the authority to change what Allah has judged. He relates Allah's words to His will, to His decree, whether it be al-kawniyya or al-shar'iyya, whether it be His universal will. What is meant by word in this ayah, in this context? It's referring to Jesus. But then there's also the legislative will of Allah. No one can change it legitimately, because some of the Christian apologists try to use verses such as this to claim that the Bible is the preserved word of Allah and that previous scriptures given to past prophets haven't been corrupted because Allah says none can alter the words of Allah. Now, spoiler alert, that is a wrong understanding of these verses.
Let me understand this. You are quoting a verse that says none can change the word of Allah. Then say Christians are wrong for believing that includes the Bible, even though the Quran repeatedly calls the Torah and the Gospel the word of Allah. That's not interpretation. That's called contradiction.
I just want to point out how disappointing it is that some of these Christian apologists can be so disingenuous. Because some of these same people, when we look at a verse like this, Mark chapter 13, verse 32, but these same Christian apologists will literally start explaining and pointing out how in order to properly understand this verse according to them, you have to really understand what is meant by knows. No one knows the hour. Let's look at that word. Let's look at it in Greek. Let's analyze it and compare it to other passages of the Bible. Yet when it comes to these verses of the Quran, all of that precision is thrown out of the window.
Well, that was rich, wasn't it? Because in this very video, Sajid refused to let the Quran speak for itself. You run straight to the tafsir and the hadith to override the plain meaning of the verse. Sorry, Allah was awful communicator. Your author of the tafsir, author of the hadith stepped in to unpack and clarify what Allah was trying to say. Thank you very much to human beings for clarifying Allah, helping Allah with His communication skills. You claim Christians are inconsistent? You are the one treating the words of Allah like a blank canvas for the scholars to redefine.
Reach them, and none can alter the words of Allah. Surely there has reached you the information about the messengers before you. So it's quite clear that even just based on the apparent context, what is words referring to here? It's referring to the help of Allah. And He has a promise of victory just like those previous messengers were victorious. But this verse is saying just like messengers of the past faced similar hardship, in the end, victory is for the messengers. Victory is for the prophets. Victory is for those who follow the guidance of their Lord. And that victory that Allah has promised, that victory that Allah has decreed, none can change it.
Then explain this. Let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed therein. If Allah calls the gospel His revelation, His word, and also says, none can change my words, how is that not direct? This isn't metaphor. This is the Quran affirming the gospel at the time of Muhammad, peace, police, FBI, and child protection be upon him. So either the Bible is still intact, or the Quran is commanding people to follow a corrupted book. Which is it?
Again, clearly, what is meant by words of Allah in this context? It's talking about the glad tidings that He has decreed, that He has promised for the believers. Another verse says, and the word of your Lord has been fulfilled in truth and in justice. None can change His words, and He is the all-hearer, the all-knower. So Allah tells us none can change His words, but right before that He also says, the word of your Lord has been fulfilled in truth and in justice. Quran, remember when the angel said, O Maryam, verily Allah gives you the glad tidings of a word. What is meant by word in this ayah, in this context? It's referring to Jesus.
That's a theological slang on hand. You are redefining the word of Allah every time it causes a contradiction. Sometimes it means decrease, sometimes it means gospel, sometimes it means Jesus. So which is it? If the context always changes, then the text loses its clarity. This isn't exegesis. This is theological duct tape. Seriously.
Now, so far we've been quoting Tafsir Ibn Kathir. Regarding these few words in this specific ayah, he doesn't go that much in detail. He essentially just gives synonyms, saying that when it comes to Allah's words, none can change them, distort them, reinterpret them. But what is meant by this specifically? Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah goes into more detail in his tafsir. He relates Allah's words to his will, to his decree, whether it be al-kawniyya or al-shar'iyya, whether it be his universal will.
So when Quran says something plainly, what do? Your first move is, what does the scholar say? What does the tafsir say? How does tafsir reinterpret this? What does hadith say? How does hadith clarify this? This isn't letting the Quran speak. This is simply muzzling it. Why even quote the Quran when every verse has to be filtered through man who came 200 plus years later? In this occasion, almost 700 plus years later. That is not divine clarity. That is override of it.
For mankind. So the Shaykh, he explains that the universal will, no one can change it. However, when it comes to his legislative will, meaning the religious rulings that he has commanded, no one can change it legitimately.
He's just playing gymnastic with the words here. He says Allah's word cannot be changed except illegitimately. That's like saying you cannot counterfeit money unless you are doing it illegally. So, people can change the word of Allah, they just aren't supposed to do. Congratulations. You just undermine the center claim of your entire video. Bottom line and bottom line. Quran says none can change the words of Allah. We reveal the Torah and the Gospel. Let the people of the book judge by it. If those books are corrupted, then Allah is endorsing corruption. If they were preserved, then Islam confirms the Bible. And if the Bible is valid, the Gospel message stands. The Quran tries to preserve the illusion of continuity, that Islam is the final chapter in the story of God's revelation. But the gospel is not corrupted message. It is the fulfilled one. Jesus said, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away.